Alright, so this was a forum request. mrgisa, playing the Benson. He had a bad interaction in chat, I guess. People kind of flipping out on him. So first thing I can recommend, if somebody's being a jerk in chat, you can highlight their name, right click, and you can block their messages. Or add them to the blacklist if it's just particularly obnoxious. So you don't have to deal with that in the future. If somebody's just like, wow, I don't want to talk to that dude, you can do that. If for some reason you really don't want to interact with chat, there is also this little button here, which will turn off player messages. You'll still get pings and requests, I need anti-aircraft fire support, but you won't see the chat. If you're just really not in the mood, you just don't want to feel like it. But so far you're starting off, well actually I'm going to leave this because I think the chat's going to get spicy or something. So you're heading over to A, which is cool. So if we look at this real quick, you are the destroyer for the southern flank, Chungmu in the middle, Shimakaze in the north. There's no CV, no subs. So you are an information gatherer. And also it's worth noticing you have an Atago behind you, which is an IJM cruiser. IJM cruiser pretty stealthy. Realistically, if you're going to go toward the cap, the enemy DD is probably going to go toward the cap. At some point it might turn into a knife fight. It might turn into y'all shooting each other. Especially because you notice that you're located. So if that happens to be the enemy's destroyer, they might be looking to make a play on you. And worth looking is a Shimakaze, which is mostly a torp boat, a Kagero, which is mostly a torp boat, and a Fletcher, which the guns are a little fishy at longer ranges, but they're solid in terms of like if you're close up and you're fighting. So having somebody in your back pocket is a really nice idea. And I point this out because you're in a Benson. This is a US destroyer. We look at the smoke consumable. You can lay a smoke line for 30 seconds. And that smoke line lasts, once each puff is put down, each puff lasts 2 minutes, 124 seconds, so a little over 2 minutes. When you head over to A, for instance, you could drop a smoke line, come over here, drop a smoke at the island and drag it out a little bit, and this Atago could be in this area, covered, not spotted, and if it turns out the enemy DD gets a little aggressive, you've got a cruiser in your back pocket. And Japanese cruisers are extremely accurate, so that could really go your way if the enemy destroyer started to play a little unsafe. But just a thought. So anyway, keep the located in mind. Fletcher's probably the thing that's going to be the most directly scary to you. And also because double torp boat, when you go to the cap, you need to be aware that sometimes people will throw torps at the cap, especially at the RPF ping, which gives them an idea of where you are. So you may want to be, nose in, nose out, along kind of a line to the cap. So you probably want to be on this line with your ship hull in case torps come in so you can juke them. But we'll just speed this up a little bit, go kind of double speed, and check out what we're doing. So people are moving forward, no information yet. You're about to get to this island. Now one thing that I did that worked for me, just to pass along, is I would say, set a smoke screen, Roger, which sounds strange coming from a DD, but it's letting people know, hey, I'm gonna drop a smoke screen, in which case I can drop a smoke, and hopefully the Atago might pay attention. You don't have to draw it in the cap. In the cap might be a little too aggressive, but you could certainly start it here and kind of give a line to allow your Atago to be a really close-in support. Just a thought, something to keep in mind. Okay, so a few things with this. We're going to watch, you're probably going to poke into the cap. And you do. So, okay, we're going to stop this right here. At this point, you're contesting the cap, which is okay, The enemy's contesting the cap, you're contesting the cap. But remember, part of destroyer play isn't necessarily sneaking a cap out from underneath the enemy. It's taking the position and then claiming the rewards at the end. So obviously, if, the enemy takes the cap and you don't contest it, well, they're getting some points and stuff. But if it's because you're setting up or your team is setting up and you end up brawling and taking A in 2 minutes from now, well, then you move forward, you claim A, and you have A for potentially the rest of the match or however long. So it's not necessarily about the short-term gains, because if you start playing up real aggressive, especially while your team is still kind of getting in position, you could be taken by surprise. You could lose a very high amount of health, just kind of shocked out of nowhere. But there's a few issues with what's going on here. One, you don't know where the enemy is, and right now your bow is pointed for them kind of half and half, honestly. I mean, you could turn out, sure, but your bow at the moment is kind of pointed into the cap. So if a destroyer ends up sneaking over here, gets you lit, and then there's something over here, there's a cruiser you haven't spotted, shells come over, half your health is gone, you don't really have a way out other than to blow your smoke. So it might help for you to kind of think of what is the ready position. The ready position is where when you don't know that it's safe, your bow is not pointed at the unsafe area. So if this is a big question mark of, I hope I'm not going to die, then your bow needs to be pointed away from it, because then you could just jam the throttle up full and get out to get away from the unsafe situation. If you know the situation is something that's beneficial to you, or that you're stronger than the enemy, or that you want to claim space, then you can put your bow toward it. But with a destroyer, you might want to hook out a little bit and then reverse into the cap in case you get spotted, in case you have an interaction, because then you've got a way out. And that way out doesn't necessarily involve your smoke screen, it just involves running away. Smoke screen can be very valuable depending on the destroyer you're in. A smoke can be very rapid and whatever, like a British smoke, you know, pop it, keep yourself safe, just run away. But the US smoke has an extremely long cooldown because it lasts a really long time. So it's a great support smoke for helping a cruiser to stay safe, kind of feel out the lay of the land and provide a lot of support before it has to move up, uproot, and get somewhere else. And if you do kind of get, if somebody calls your bluff, you know, they run across you and it starts getting hot and heavy, when you pop this, it's gone for a long time. So have to be a little conscious of that. But right now, one, you're bow in. Two, there's no smoke to assist a cruiser, so that's, you don't have the cruiser in your back pocket because the cruiser has to play safe. They don't want to be spotted, shelled down by a battleship. And at this point, you're probably getting information. But with the rocks here, I'm not exactly sure if you would be getting information on a destroyer or potentially a cruiser. So this might be blocking your line of sight. But we do know that there's a destroyer in the cap. So we can see over here there's a Zao that we didn't know existed, because Zao is very sneaky. And this Zao has an excellent shot on you. So if it turns out that a Kagero or a Shimakaze, which are going to have better detection than you, they are able to come over and spot you right here, Zao's going to take a shot, DD's going to take a shot, you're going to get hurt before you pop a smoke or try to run. And because you're bow in, the best you can do is reverse slowly, while they may even have torps coming out in your direction if they have the angle.
Concentrate fire on the designated target. All stations requesting fire on the designated target.
Okay, so when it came to torping there, you kind of torped a little ahead, torped a little behind, but you didn't really torp in the in-between. Try to read the movement of the vessel, and you can either, one, throw a single wave of torps if you're extremely unsure. Hey, if this is going to get me something, great. But you'll keep some in your back pocket in case you get a better shot, in case something gets crazy, or DD rushes you or whatever. Or try to link the torps up. Try to make a wall so that instead of having a gap that a battleship could fit through, if he just happens not to go in either direction, just kind of goes in the middle, well, he's safe. So often what you could do is the white line is going to tell you approximately where your torps are going to get there when they move into them. So you might torp on the back side of the white line and the front side of the white line, making sure to kind of sweep across it, which will give you a torp wall. So it kind of forces an interaction. If you wanted, if you felt fairly good about it, instead of putting it like that, you could start to merge them on top of each other a little, so there's a bit of overlap in the center in case they do really dead on. But having that big gap, that can be awkward. I'm gonna speed this up again. Okay, so we're looking at detection.
Smoke generator started.
I'm a little surprised at the smoke here. we're looking at the detection, 5.8. Battleship is still pushing you. And your detection is almost, your bluff is almost called. We don't know where the DD is. This is obviously pushing very hard, which is a little strange because of how many people are here, but maybe they just don't know that there are so many bad guys here because the DD doesn't have vision on them. This smoke here is going to help you be in smoke. And that's it. That's all it's going to do. And your Benson guns, yeah, HE might light a fire or two, but it's not going to be the end of the world. So in this specific case, if you were in a different destroyer that had a shorter duration smoke, like a British smoke, maybe a Japanese smoke, maybe a Russian smoke, those are going to be a little more personal. Whereas this one is a really long duration thing, and you want to get the most out of it. If this guy was charging you, you've got a Zhao over there that if you get lit, he's going to bingo you. You got a battleship that's going to have a fair amount of health that, yes, you might be able to torp rush, but your torps are on cooldown for 2 minutes now. And if a DD comes in here, as soon as you pop a smoke, they're probably going to be torps coming in on you, which could be really scary. So, you might just want to disengage, let this guy move forward, keep getting information. You have 3 battleships and 3 cruisers if this guy really wants to push into this to get himself kind of worked over.
Torpedoes astern. Target position.
Yeah, so at this point, you're using your smoke.
Torpedoes astern.
Your smoke is helping you get some farming done. But he's so close, you're pushed out of the smoke anyway, which is tough times. So now we've got a cooldown on our smoke of 2.5 minutes, while we've already been pushed off of it because he doesn't care. He's not moving. Your torps are down. And now he's actually close enough to spot you if he gets around that smoke screen. So you pop your engine boost to try to run away.
Requesting assistance.
Okay, good. You are getting away. That's nice. Now, if he turns in, he's going to light you. But you're kiting him okay. It goes dark. Smoke should be down fairly soon. That's the personal smoke there. Those might be okay, but I think he just turned so hard those miss. Okay, cool. So at this point, there's a Zhao. You out-detect the Zhao, but there's also a destroyer somewhere. You don't know where the destroyer is, unfortunately, but there is a destroyer that's in the area doing crazy destroyer stuff. There's a Fletcher in the middle, so it's going to be a torpedo boat. It's probably going to be able to outspot you. But trying to get eyes on the Zhao to help your 2 battleships, as well as your cruisers, have good interactions with them. You might get the Zhao taken out, and it looks like the destroyer has left. Great, you're still playing point guard. Woot. Radar from the Des Moines. I think you just have to be aware that shells might be coming in, but if he's not shooting at you, then you don't have to worry about all the jukes and stuff. Although, there you go. I guess the Des Moines had some jukes. And some hits. Okay, so DD's probably way out there. Now, this is an interesting question. The DD torped you. Somebody torped you from over here. Those weren't Zhao torps from like forever ago. That's a destroyer. You could chase the Zhao. You have a Kansas that can shoot him, a Hindenburg that can shoot him. Or you can chase the destroyer and try to pin him against the edge of the map. Because there's not so much room to avoid being detected if you can just charge him. And if the Zhao isn't shooting and goes dark, well, he's not doing any damage. He might be throwing torps at you, long-range torps for this stuff. But right now, this destroyer has the broadside of your Kansas if your Kansas wants to move. Has the side of the Hindenburg if he wants to move. The destroyer needs to be taken care of. I would really put precedent on the DD that's trying to torp in from the side. I think that's going to be very important. There is a Chungmu that could assist in this area, although kind of buried in the pack at the moment. Because extremely low health, sure. Right now, you guys don't really have map control, but That's okay. They YOLO'd pretty hard and lost a ship for it, and now you're starting to express yourself back. You guys actually have a health lead, so you have an advantage at the moment. It's just you don't have the cap positions.
Torpedoes, astern.
Yeah, so we really need to go find that destroyer. That destroyer is going to be a real problem.
Requesting fire on the designated target.
So, still looking at the Zhao. Not going to be able to get anything into the Zhao. Destroyer's not getting lit. There is a Chungmu, but the Chungmu is extremely low. So the first torps came from over here. The second torps came from there. He might be just riding the wall. So I think you really want to head down here and try to push them against the edge of the map and force an interaction. Okay, there's the Shimikaze. So if we'd been able to come down and kind of pinch this, we would have had a Kansas and a Hindenburg and, you know, all this other stuff kind of throwing shells at them. That could be pretty big. And leaving a Shimikaze to just sort of torp into everybody can be super tough. Also, we do have a smoke. I don't think there was too much of an interaction where we could have tried to smoke something, but if we got the Shimikaze off, maybe we could have found a place to smoke up and get our Hindenburg just power farming, trying to get some damage into the enemy so we can start making up for lost time.
Torpedoes to port.
Okay, now here's something to pay attention to as well. You've got torps coming in, Yoshino, Zhao, whatever. Here's you, here's the enemy. Who can help you? Are your guns going to kill the Yoshino? Are your guns going to kill the Des Moines? Are your guns going to kill the Tirpitz? No. Are your torps going to single-handedly destroy everybody? No. So right now you've got good eyes on the enemy. You've got good information. But you don't have any play potential. There's nothing going on right now. At this point, they could just kite away, which means your torps won't land. You have no threat. Maybe the Tirpitz is bow in. You have a possibility there. But you have a team that you could be trying to use or synchronize with, and unfortunately, they didn't come with you. The Kansas wanted to, but he died to torpedoes and shell fire. So, at this point, you are overextended. If you happen to be lit by a Des Moines radar that comes off cooldown, if you happen to eat torpedoes that are being chucked in this direction, you might get removed off the map with no support and no ability to help your team go further. Okay, Tirpitz is going to charge. You do make it out without being spotted. Your torps are up.
Smoke generator started.
Okay,
Smoke screen set.
so two things. Very hard to hit long-range shots with US guns. US guns are extremely floaty. They're nice up close. They're maybe not punchy, but they're consistent. They have a rapid firing rate, and as long as you're within like 7 kilometers or less, they've got decent arcs and you can do some real damage. When you start pushing out that range, you're not shooting at the ship, you're shooting the cloud above the ship and seeing if the cloud gets mad, grabs the shell out of the air and throws it down at the ship for you. It's a really just long process. So, two issues. One, you smoked yourself. The smoke resulted in 1,500 to 2,000 damage. There's nothing locking these ships in. There's nothing to stop them from running away. They just back up. That's all they have to do. And they didn't even have to do that. The Des Moines could have just popped radar and killed you. He was moving for, I'm not really sure what reason, but there's nothing to stop him from committing other than possibly being shot by a Musashi, who you can't even spot right now because you're in smoke. The Chungmu was not able to help. He might actually be going after the Shimikaze to try to get the Shimikaze dealt with. Who... Okay, so far Shima doesn't have any kills, so that's good. If you're going to use this smoke, this is a super powerful tool. Try to find a way to synergize with it. The other problem is, once you drop this, it's in a spot for a long duration of time, and the Des Moines could just leave. And you don't have the ability to shoot the Tirpitz from here. So this smoke is going to last a long time and not do much of anything. It's more of a reflex. I think you wanted to smoke up so that you could shoot your guns. There are other destroyers that are going to be better at doing that, just by the nature of what their smoke cooldown is and how it interacts with the ship. You know, it's a little greedy. It's looking a little rough. you have less people than they do, so it's understandable, but still, whenever you use this, try to wring the most out of it. And now you're just going to be charged by Des Moines, whose radar should be up fairly soon. Okay, and there's the CAG. So, the DD we hadn't seen. 7 kilometers from a Des Moines. It's going to be super hard. I'm going to be honest, I don't see why somebody would have chewed you out. Oh, you're terrible this, you're terrible that. Probably the biggest thing that I saw was, one, the smoke didn't allow... You didn't have the smoke allowing your team to move forward in kind of like undercover or safety. There wasn't a lot of options to that. Really, it was only the Atago. Secondly, not going after the Shimikaze there is just saying they'll deal with it. And without radar, without speed, they don't get to deal with it. They just get to be spotted and shelled from range and torped and stuck running because of the threat of a Shimikaze. You had the speed, you had a full health pool, you could have engaged. Now, Shimikaze's tier 10, you're tier 8, but you've got consistent guns, especially if you get in close and you force an interaction, and you had like 6 teammates there. Maybe 4, but 4 to 6 teammates there that could all take shots at the Shimikaze and just clap them off the map, and then you get to go back and start pushing a flank or looking at stuff or getting into intel or whatever. So yeah, I don't know why you got freaked out on chat. I muted it. I really didn't have interest in seeing a whole bunch of people being stupid in chat. So don't forget, you can block them and have a good one.